Thank you, guys. Awesome job today and every Sunday. Welcome. How's everyone today? Or is what we learned last week where we were at Yatahe. You say Yatahe? Come on, everybody, say Yatahe. Y'all just said something really bad. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. You said hello as a greeting in Navajo. Y'all just blindly follow anybody up here, don't you? But no, I do want to thank you for the opportunity to come up here and just share kind of what the mission trip was. But here's my thing. I normally don't like doing these things because I don't want it to be an entertainment thing. I want us to be challenged today, and I want us to learn what missions is and what we do out there when we go, and also maybe to be encouraged to be a little more missional and to continue being missional as a church. So if you came here for a show, you turn to the wrong channel, okay? Because I am not entertaining. One time I was introduced, I had to share my testimony at a pretty large gathering, and the guy that was up there was a close friend of mine, and he said, this next guy coming up, he's a great guy, he's a good Christian, he's overcome, things through Christ, da-da-da-da-da. But if you came to be entertained, and if you want to see somebody entertaining, he's not the guy. And I was like, this is the worst introduction I've ever had in my entire life. So anyway, but if you did come to be entertained, I don't want you to do that. I want you to kind of see. We're going to go through a bunch of pictures, and I'm going to show you. Actually, I'm going to move out of the way so everybody can see. Sorry, camera person. But we're going to kind of go through a bunch of pictures so you can just kind of see what we do and what we did out there and who these people are we're talking about and what it looks like out there and just everything that happened. And then we'll kind of dive in there a little deeper on ministry as far as missions. I told Swigert I'm going to set a timer. She said I couldn't do it in 30 minutes, and I'm going to prove her wrong. All right. So let's go ahead and go to the first slide. We'll just jump right in. You're going to see a kind of a collage. You see here at the bottom, you'll see Nathan Graham. Nathan, raise your hand. Say hey to Nathan. Nathan did a great job. Nathan and Ryan Smith. Ryan's up there with the kids right now. I think this was the first cut, Nathan's first time using a skill saw, so he came back with all his digits, so that's a good thing. But we were cutting forms to pour concrete. Up at the top, you got Hope Turbyfield. I think she's just lost, and we caught it on camera. We're cooking hot dogs over there at the lake. That's Wheatfield Lake down at the bottom. It was a beautiful place, and we got to just really experience a lot of God moments there that we'll get into here in a little bit. So we'll go to the next one. I'm going to try to keep up with her on my notes. All right, this is us. We went on like a prayer walk. Here you see Nathan again. Like, he is a stud out there, man. He was working like crazy. The first one is where we went on a prayer walk. You're supposed to follow the path and go to certain prayer stations, and we really didn't do very well with the prayer stations because we were struggling to find the path. So we were just trying not to get lost in the New Mexico wilderness, but and not find rattlesnakes or anything like that. But then Nathan is over there. He's been drilling holes for to put anchors in for concrete and for an air conditioning unit on that one. We'll go to the next one. This is in the school up at the top. They made a banner for the girls did the banner. Ryan just jumped in there and got partial credit for it. But they did a banner for the school for a classroom. Down at the bottom is us pouring concrete. That's Nathan and Ryan. That's the place that we stayed at last year, Thomas. They're painting it and Hope on a Ladder painting. They did a great job. I know Nathan and Ryan did a great job pouring concrete. We got it all over us. I think our pants are a little stiffer than they used to be. But we had a great time there serving in the school and just around the reservation there. So you can go to the next one. Again, you see Nathan again. Well, we really like Nathan with the camera, don't we? So you got Nathan taking a hike around the lake. Hope's painting. That's Isis down here at the bottom. We found out Isis is an amazing artist and an amazing cook. So we were really thankful. I was really thankful for the latter. But it was great. This is me either trying to figure out where I'm at or trying to figure out where my butt went. I didn't realize it's not a flattering picture. Wow. My wife really married down. So we'll go to the next one, please. All right, so the top picture is we went to a conference. It's kind of like what we would call a revival or a tent revival, but they call them a Bible conference out there. It was really cool, and we're going to kind of talk about it a little bit more in a minute. But just to kind of let you know what it was, so they go to a public campground. People drive for hours to get there, and it's just a tent, like a tent revival. They'll do 2 services a night. One's in Navajo, in their language, and then one's in our language. And people will stay in tents for basically a week with no running water, porta-johns that I promise you, you do not want to go in at the end of the week. Nathan will testify to that one too. And this is how they go for like a church service. And I got really convicted because I like my air conditioned. I like my toilets, and I like them clean. And these people, the Navajo people, would just go and worship God, thundering and lightning like crazy. We're sitting under, where Nathan and Ryan and I sat, we were like basically hugging the center metal pole. And I'm just like, well, we're going to get something out of this. But it was just amazing to see their level of dedication. They embraced us. Of course, we were the only white people on the campground there. They embraced us. We never felt like we wasn't welcome. It was just great to be involved in a church service where, we didn't fit in, and the one pastor, he preached 98% of his sermon in Navajo. I have no clue what he taught. I'm sure it was great because I talked to him. He's a good guy. But we have no clue what he taught. They sang their songs in Navajo. I kind of picked up on the chorus and melody of a couple of them, but I really didn't know what they were singing. But we still felt like the presence of God. You still felt the community of the church, and no matter what the language was. And it was so inspiring. And then to think, we got to go get in our nice ride and drive home into a pretty nice place where we stayed, and they all went to their tent and slept for the night to get up in the morning for discipleship parts, and the kids were going to do stuff, and then they had 2 services at night, and no showers, anything like that. And I don't know who I was talking to, but I was just like, I just don't know if I'm there yet. I said, if that opportunity was presented to me here, would I do it? Would I be so hungry for God here? Would I go to it? And I just said, no, I wouldn't. And I was really convicted by that. There's also a place where we kind of got some reverse, I won't say racism, but it was just kind of a reverse thing. Different on the other side of it, we were walking through, and a lady had a dog on a leash, and the dog kind of, not tried to kill us or anything, but it showed some little aggression. And she's like, oh, he's never seen white people before. And it was just kind of like, I've never been on that end of it. So it's we kind of got to experience that. But they asked me to come up and share a little bit, talked about you guys, talked about the church and how the church sent us out there to help. And it was great. Down at the bottom, we got Isis making her radio debut. We got to be on the radio. We're going to show a clip of that here in a little bit. Nathan and Ryan pondering life's mysteries on the top. I don't know if they ever figured it out. All right, so the next slide, this is when we got there. This is actually going up to like a prayer gazebo. I just thought it was a cool picture. A group, I don't know how long it's been there, but a group actually put those stairs in the mountain. So that's some of the things that groups do when they go out there, is they're always moving ahead and doing things, forward thinking, so we love that. Next. Swiggett and Hope over here, again, contemplating the mysteries of the universe. Actually, they were talking about some pretty serious theology, and I said I was kind of lost, so I just took a picture. We see, we'll jump over to the other side. We'll skip the middle. That's Jenna. She works at the radio station. We're going to talk about her here in a few minutes. She's an amazing woman of God. She really opened up to us this time. We met her last time, but this time we met her and got to really know her and got to hear her story and her mother's story, and heartbreaking, but also amazing. And the center picture is our luggage guardian. He was guarding our luggage when we ate breakfast in Atlanta, and that's what we came back to. We found out that Ryan is an amazing sleeper. He can sleep through anything, and I am very, very jealous of his sleeping skills. And so we had to give him a hard time because we picked on him the whole time. Ryan did have a great quote out there, and I wrote it down. He says that I'm going to use what I've learned there that I can treat people better and not judge people, and live for God more and not just myself. And I thought, man, that's what missions is all about. We go to help people, but that's what we want God to do in our hearts as well, is that we learn as we help. So go to the next one. Here's our team picture. This was at the Wheatfield Lake. This team made an amazing impact on a lot of lives there. We didn't really get to talk to a lot of people, which we know that going in, but the things that we did are going to impact lives. And I'm so proud of every one of these young people. We hear so many times in today's culture about kids today or this generation and all this stuff. Well, I'm here to tell you, like, I've spent the summer working with this generation, and there's some very, very, very bright spots there, and every one of them are. And they all have a heart to serve people. They have a heart for people. They have a heart for the Lord, and all of them are doing college now. They're getting ready to start, and so they're getting ready to start their adult lives. And what a bright future we have. And I want us to always remember, I know things in today's world are what they are, but let's not always just group everything as negative. There's some bright spots out there, and when we find them, we got to support them, and we got to pray for them, and we got to encourage them. And so I was really proud of them. This is our crew. We'll put this picture up somewhere, definitely in my office or somewhere. But all right, so next, got a little special thing here. So this is me baptizing Hope Turbyfield in Wheatfield Lake, and this is me baptizing Swiggett in the lake. And you can just go to the next one because I think it loops and it's just going to look like I was attacking them. You can just stay right there. So in baptizing Hope, the first one we did, I wanted to brag on Hope some. I've known her since she was in 6th grade. We used to pick on her all the time. She was the biggest tomboy I've ever had in the youth group. And she was all limbs when she came in. It was just like no torso, just limbs. And she was constantly running. She never walked anywhere and beating up boys. And I've walked with her through a lot of things in life. And I was just so proud that she gave me this opportunity to do this. This was a very emotional moment for me because Hope started crying and I started crying. And you can't see it on the video, but we were just a wreck out there. But I was just so happy for her as she's a college athlete playing volleyball down at Pembroke. She's already back at school. And I was just really proud of her dedication and willingness at this time of life when she could be out partying and doing whatever with anybody. She's decided to get baptized on a mission trip and really wants to live her life for Christ. And so I was really proud of her. And then, of course, we all know the other baptism is our friend Swiggett, who's our Young Lives director here. I told her this is a moment I've been waiting for a long time because I really wanted to hold her under and let her marinate a little bit, but because she's mean to me a lot. She bullies me, y'all. But we all love Swiggett. We all know her. If you have kids here, you know her. Swiggett is an amazing person. I'd be lost without her in ministry. She helps me out a lot. And then just watching her grow as I've mentored her for a few years has just been amazing. And I really wanted to just say that if you've not met her, you need to. If you have kids in the kids ministry, whether it's basically cradle to college, pray for her because it's tough. And she's doing this while she starts getting her master's here in a couple of weeks. She's got a birthday coming up on the 19th. Don't tell her I told you. But, she works at church for about 35 hours a week, and she does not get paid for 35 hours a week. But she does it because she loves your kids, and she does it because she wants to make disciples of your kids. And I know that because I taught her that. So if you have kids, encourage her. I had a friend of mine at camp this year. She said, the strongest are normally the least encouraged. The strongest leaders are normally the least encouraged. And I want to encourage you. Encourage Swiggett. Build her up. Tell her how thankful you are because, she does a lot. And we want to build her up. And we don't want to lose her. That's the main thing because I'd be lost. All right. So this is Chuck and Cindy here on opposite ends. Chuck is like my new BFF. Me and Chuck really connected really well out there, and he was on me the whole time about wanting me to move out there, and I told him I couldn't. But they're really maybe the best Christians I've ever met. When you hang around them, they're never going to just come out and say they're a Christian, but within 25 seconds, you know. And I tell someone, they just ooze Jesus. Like, you just are around them and you just feel God in their lives. And I've never seen anyone love people the way that they do. They love people in a way that I really believe Christ loves people. They're working with people that have their own struggles, and they fall back into things, and they do things. And Chuck and Cindy just show so much grace to people all the time. And it's so inspiring to me, because there were times, they had a situation happen last year when we were there, and I was just like, man, I'd have fired him. And I went back out there, and I was like, hey, how's he doing? He's like, oh, he's doing great. He's still working for us. And it really showed, like, their grace was definitely trumped my lack of empathy. But it was amazing, and these are the people that we really want to support. When we go out there and we say we want to support the reservation, or we want to support Across Nations, I want you to think of Chuck and Cindy. Chuck grew up on the reservation. His grandparents started Western Indian Ministries, which became Across Nations. And then he married Chuck. They are the sweetest couple you'll ever meet. They'll make you cry. They're so sweet. But we really want to just support them. They are in desperate need for a principal. Cindy is actually filling in as the interim principal at their school while doing radio station duties, while ministering to people and everything. I don't know how she's going to get it all done. And so we really just need to be in prayer that God would send them a principal, just so we don't see Cindy burn out, because I told her I was worried about her. So be in prayer over that. We'll go to the next one. All right, so we're going to listen to this, and then we'll come back. Can y'all hear it? Okay, you can go to the next one. So what this was, we got to do a radio show. Hope Turbyfield, who was in the yellow there, she is going to school for communications and marketing, and they let her just go on there and basically host the radio show and interviewed all of us. And whenever I heard, or I got to thinking about what I wanted to do today and talk about missions, but I stood there and listened to Swiggett's answer to Hope's question, I was like, she said it better than I could have said it. And so I said, might as well just show the video. So I started recording. And she really nailed it. She really hit the nail on the head that the church goes on missions to remain missional and to grow in missions, not only on the mission field, but when you return to remain missional. And that's kind of where I'm at with everything right now, is as I'm looking at, New Mexico was awesome, but what are we doing before we go back? What are we doing as a church before we go back? And I want us to we need to be the church that reaches out to the broken and to the lost. And I think we're doing a really good job. I think we're making a lot of steps moving in that direction. And I want us to keep moving forward, to never be settled. I told Swiggett, I said, I don't really know what to title a sermon, but it would probably be uncomfortable today if I had to title it. Because I want us as a church to always be uncomfortable. One thing I started when I started in ministry, that was the key word for me, was to remain uncomfortable, to never be satisfied, to never be settled in where I am in my Christian walk, to always want more of God, but also to want to do more with God and for God and to glorify God. And so I want us as a church to just remain uncomfortable. This quote from C.S. Lewis, he said, I didn't go to religion to make me happy. I always knew that a bottle of port would do that. If you want a religion to make you feel really comfortable, I certainly don't recommend Christianity. And I love that quote because it's so true, because when you see the Bible, you never see anyone that God's using being comfortable. They're always uncomfortable. We are called to be uncomfortable. Why do we choose to be comfortable instead of choosing to be used? And that's one thing I've always struggled with in working with the church and in being a Christian. because it's so easy for us here to be comfortable in our lives. We seek comfortability. We wanted to be comfortable. I was so excited, probably way too excited, when we went to rent a car and we landed in Albuquerque. And they said, Mr. King, we don't have your car. And I was like, all right now. And they was like, we're going to bump you. And we got a 2022 Ford Expedition that was loaded. And it was just like, oh, this is great. And then immediately pulling into the reservation, I got convicted. Because it's just like, oh no, we're those white people now. And it was just, we're pulled into a place of, poverty and lack. And we pulled in with like ballers. And it was just kind of like, man, in every facet of my life, I want to be comfortable. But when I look at the Bible, when I read the Bible, that wasn't the main goal of anyone in the Bible, was to be comfortable. The main goal for everyone in the Bible, every person you ever see used in the Word, wanted to be more uncomfortable, but to have more of God, to serve God more, to glorify God more. And so I mentioned Jen earlier. She was the Navajo lady we showed. Jen's story was gut-wrenching when she told us her testimony. She grew up as a child of an evangelist. Her mother was an evangelist there on the reservation. Very godly woman. But everyone on the reservation knew her as someone who was a Christian or served white man's Jesus. And so Jen, while growing up in school, was actually beat up a lot. And they would call her Jesus as they were beating her up. And she grew up like that, being real persecution, okay? It was none of the stuff we call persecution here in the Bible Belt. Real persecution, where you're physically hurt. And her mother had to find that her daughter was being beat because of her faith. And Jen grew up like that. And Jen's story was amazing to sit and listen to. But now she serves on the radio station, and she is such a godly woman, a very wise woman. There's a man who's living there now on the reservation or on the ministry. His name's Quinn. Quinn grew up with an alcoholic father, which most people do there. They grew up with alcoholism around them. Quinn grew up to become an alcoholic and struggled with depression and became homeless. And Quinn attempted suicide 3 different occasions and then led with the shame and guilt of not even being able to kill himself right. That was his words. And Quinn found Christ. And he made the comment to me of how he just wanted to glorify God in everything that he does in life. He said, I don't mind being homeless anymore. He said, as long as I'm glorifying God. And I was just like, yep, I can't say that. And the whole time there was always these little things that I would hear. And it was just like, yep, I'm not there. I wish I was, but I'm not. We went to the conference, and I told you about the conference, about people sleeping and camping out for days in the rain and the storms. It's actually like the rainy season, monsoon season there, so it's like torrential downpours here. Porta potties that were filled up, and I don't mean with rain. They'd sit through the 2 services at night and just worship God, praising God, and it was amazing to watch. I talked to local pastors over the last couple of years. From just the few that I spoke with, they're all just on average, they did 20 to 50 funerals a year through everything because of COVID being so bad. I don't even know how to describe that. To think that your job is just basically doing funerals for your people and not really discipling people. Suicide is through the roof in teenagers there, and teenager suicide is at a higher rate there than anywhere in the world. I told you about Quinn and his struggles, but Quinn is doing great. And so we must continue to grow and be missional. I know it's work, but souls are at stake. And, the church has really been doing really well with reaching out. And I think we're making all the right steps to move forward and being missional. We can go to the next one. Savannah talked about the kids' color run. That's the next opportunity you're going to have to serve. All the proceeds are going to go to help to the people in Ukraine, which is a great need. I have friends that live over there or in Poland and everywhere, and there's just so much poverty that's not making the news. So that's coming up. You can be a part of that by just donating, or come be a part and just hang out with us. And we'll let you throw powder at kids. That's a great day. You throw them at your own kids, or you can throw them at strangers. We don't care. And so come for that. Our life groups are doing such a great job of reaching out and finding ministries to reach out to. Keith's class, they did an awesome job at National Night Out in Archdale. I've heard Tim Kennedy was bragging on them about how awesome they did. And I was really proud of them handing out potato chips and just making connections in the community and talking to people. And they brought potato chips home for me to eat in the office, and that's awesome. But we're just really thankful for them reaching out. You can go to the next one. And we got like Carson. Oh, I'm sorry, Buster. I don't know how that got in there. But Buster and his Sunday school class or Carson's class, they're ministering to the prison, people in prison. They're meeting their needs, getting Bibles to them and everything. And so you can go to the next one. Sorry, Buster. But here we're going to start in a couple weeks. We're going to start collecting things for shoe boxes for the kids ministry, where we can start sending shoe boxes. Earlier this year, we're going to try to jump on this a little earlier. And so I need to go one more. Next slide. And then, of course, we got Across Nations. So I wanted to come up here today and really just brag on everyone, because you really are doing a great job of becoming missional. Now, we're not there yet, and I don't want us to pretend that we're there yet, and I hope that we're never there. I hope that we're always looking for more opportunities to minister to the community, to our friends and families, across the United States, across the world, wherever we find an opportunity or where we see a door that God has opened. I pray that we're a church that jumps through it. I don't want us to be a church that's comfortable. I know we're doing a lot of things to try to spruce up the place, and I love that, because the reason I love that is because I think it brings more opportunities in for us to create disciples. Not so that we're comfortable. It's so that we can be more effective in glorifying God. And that's my heart's cry. And going out there and actually seeing the way they do things, I'm more inspired, more motivated than I've been, because I want to see God be made famous again. And it's going to have to come from the church, leaving the church and leaving our comfortability and going out. Listen, I don't like talking to people. I'll be honest with you. I'm an introvert. I'm shy by nature. Going out across the country to talk to people is not something that I'm particularly good at. They sent me to a tractor store to get a tire fixed, and I walked in, and it was like one of those movies, like where everything stops and it gets quiet and they all turn and stare at you. That's how I felt. And I was like miserable inside, because I don't like attention, especially evil eyes. And it was just kind of like, hi. But then I told Chuck, I said, because he asked me how it went, I said, man, every tractor store in every city in every state, there's one thing you can talk about to break down barriers. If you want, just talk about the rain, because either everybody's not getting any or they're getting too much. And so we just had a great conversation there with them. But you got to get out and open yourself up to talk to people. And the guy behind the counter, he's like, what are you doing out here? And I was like, man, I'm here to serve on a mission down the road here. And he knew Chuck and Cindy, and he was just like, well, that's really cool. He's like, what are you doing? I said, pouring concrete and fixing a backhoe tire for Jesus. And he was just like, well, that's different, And it was just kind of that conversation of, man, I love you. I love being out here, and I love the culture and everything. And we started talking about, they have a thing where when you get a sandwich, if you ever go out there, they're going to ask you red or green. And that's the type of chili sauce they're going to put on it. They're not really that hot, so don't worry about that. It's just one's kind of a green taste and one's kind of a red taste. And it's a big ordeal. You're either red or green there. You can't be one or the other. Or you can't be both. You got to pick. And so he was just like, red or green? And I was like, green. And he was like, loser. And, and it was just kind of like, and then I said, well, then they have a thing where they call it Christmas, where you can get both put on there. And I was like, okay, Christmas. And he's like, no, you're white. You can't do that. And so... And so it was just a great time, but it took me getting out there and overcoming that, I feel like I'm the last person they wanted to see walk in the door. And I want us as a church to be able to be willing to go out and do that. To go out to Archdale and National Night Out or wherever God opens the door, and just talk to people. We're not out there to beat them with the Bible. We're out there to love them like Christ would. And to ask them, hey, how can I pray for you? Whenever you go out to eat and you're talking to your waitress, I want to encourage you. I do this a lot. Whenever they bring the food, I'll just say, hey, I'm getting ready to bless our food. Can I pray for you? What can I pray for you about? And you'll be surprised at the doors that opens up. But you've got to be that missional minded, where it's not, I'm trying to be comfortable. Oh, Swiggett beat me. But you got to be missional minded to go out there and do it. I was trying to find a scripture for the whole thing for this, kind of sum it up, because, every sermon is supposed to have a scripture with it. And so here's the passage I want you to read. If you want to learn about being uncomfortable, you start in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, and read all the way through Revelations 22, verse 21. And you will find nothing but verses about being uncomfortable, because the whole Bible is full of people being uncomfortable. The people that were comfortable in the Bible were typically the ones that were against God. But the ones that God used were the ones who sought God's glory more than their comfort. And so, church, let me encourage you. We're doing great, but we're going to do better. We're doing cool stuff. We're going to do better. A guy asked me one time, how have you done so much cool stuff in ministry? I said, because I know that I suck. And he kind of looked at me, and I was like, and the quicker you admit that, the better you'll be in ministry. I said, because it keeps you at the foot of God. It keeps you at his throne, and it keeps you begging for direction. God, I'm not moving till you open a door. But then when you see the door open, to have the courage to say, I have no clue what I'm doing, God, but I'm going through it. And if you'll live your life, your Christian life like that, of just one open door after another, and don't move until the door opens. But when that door opens, first time I ever went to Trinity, they wanted me to be a chaplain on a football team. I went to the head football coach, and I was like, hey, my buddy Cody wants me to be the chaplain for a team. And he's like, all right, cool. And I was like, what do I do? And he's like, I thought you knew. And I said, I have no clue. And it went on, and the first day on the sidelines, I just stood there. I never played football in my life. And I just stood on the sidelines, not knowing what to do. And God continually opened doors, and opened opportunities for me. And that's how it's been through most of my ministry. It's just when a door opens, I go through it. And I just trust that God's got me, because he's not going to open a door for you and not walk with you through it. And so I want to encourage you, church, let's keep moving forward. Across Nations is awesome. I want to go like 4 times a year. And I really want to, I'm not just saying that like being sarcastic. I really want us eventually to have where we're sending 4 teams a year to Across Nations. I think it'd be awesome, and they would love it. But I also want us to be a church that's doing things in Archdale and High Point and Southern Guilford. And I want us to be a church that's serving within the body. I want to encourage you, if you're not serving within the church, it's the best place to start. It's the safest place to fall if you're going to fall. Jump in there with the kids ministry. We need volunteers. We need help with teaching. We're going to really start, getting our teams back together and our ministries back together and reformatting them with leadership and everything. And jump in there. Be a missional-minded church, because there are so many lost. In the last couple of years, all we've heard from a lot of churches is this is the end times. And it might be. I don't know. And if it is, why aren't we doing more? If we really believe we're living in the last days, we really should be uncomfortable. Because when I used to coach basketball, I used to tell them, hey, we play till the buzzer goes off. And if we're living in the last days, we're getting close to the buzzer. And so if you believe that, you should be the number one person out there serving God and glorifying God in your life. And I want us to be that church and to continue growing in that direction. Again, I don't want us to be like, oh, you're not doing nothing. No, you're doing great. Let's do more. Okay? I'm so proud of you. I brag on you when I went out there, and I was like, man, you should see, when we get back, we're going to be serving in the community. They're doing this. They're serving prisoners. I didn't even know that was a ministry, and they came up with it. And I was like, our older generation are leading the charge. And I was like, it's awesome. And I was bragging on the Cornerstone for what you're doing. But don't be satisfied. Don't be settled. Don't be comfortable. Let us get out there and glorify God, because he's worthy. And I'm done. Amen. Let me pray. I don't guess we need a song. You want to do it? We'll do it. Y'all want to sing again? We'll sing again. Let me pray. Lord, I love you. Thank you for the opportunity. God, thank you that when we serve you and we trust you and we follow you, that you lead us to amazing things. I stood there on the bank of that lake, and I listened to testimonies about how you've used me to impact lives. And all I could think about was how unworthy I am. that I don't deserve the opportunities that you present to me to be standing on a lake, on the side of a lake, at the edge of the Rocky Mountains, with two amazing people about to be baptized and hear them say how I've impacted their life. I don't deserve it. I don't deserve this, to be standing here before this amazing church body. But God, I am so thankful that when we are faithful and we follow you through the open doors, that you bless us with more than we'll ever deserve. So God, I ask that as we close and we sing this song about how much you love us, God, I pray that we would just stop and focus on you, and that we would just think of how good you are. God, let us be a church that comes in here on Sunday and gets filled up with your love, not so that we can hold it in ourselves, but we can go out and give it. That we can not just focus on how much you love us and keep it inside selfishly, but God, that we can go out and share your love with the broken and the hurting and depressed and the anxious. God, let us be a church that puts other people first. God, I love you. I'm so thankful that you love us. And Lord, just ask that you be with us in this time, God, as we close. Thank you so much, Father, for loving us. In Jesus' name, amen.